You guys, oh my gosh, did you guys hear any of that music? Raise your hand if you did, because I've been talking to a blue mic this entire time. It's been a day. Anyway, you guys, I'm not going to do my PSAs now because that was like 5, 7 minutes of just pure. Clearly, you guys didn't hear. But anyway, you guys know the drill. Derek's in the house. He typically gives us 90 minutes of his time. So we're just going to go into it. And again, everybody, you know where to follow us. We are being listened to in over 100 countries. So check us out on the podcast host or the social medias. And we're going to go into it. And I want to welcome Derek. How are you, Derek?
Well, I'm doing all right. Just another day putting liberals away.
Well, dude, I've just been sitting here doing my whole PSAs, and I don't know if they heard because I have now like a friend of mine. She wrote a song, like a theme song for me, and then a music producer put it together with the music. And I don't even know. Did any of you guys hear that? Raise your hand if you heard any of that. But anyway, I want to welcome you. How have you been? It's been what, 2 weeks? So much is going on. I mean, here we are coming out with the Epstein stuff again, and oh my gosh, I want to kind of focus a little bit on obviously we had the Grammys last night. And there was a lot of crap going on there, and then we see Donald Trump on his True Social. He's really talking a lot about the 2020 election, and obviously it not being over, and the fraud that's happened with it. So obviously we can touch on that, but also I don't know if there's something that you want to bring to the table, what you've been working on since we last spoke to you. What do you got? What do you got going on over in your world, Derek?
Well, I mean, it's just trying to keep people knowing that this whole thing is an operation. And I know they get tired of hearing that, but I mean, that's why they weren't probably in the military. And I know people get tired of hearing that as well. So it's kind of like I was looking at uh, a storyline that I put up on my Instagram. And I had this podcast probably a week ago, and I had one last night. And I tell people that, uh, I get it. There's a lot of moving mouths out there. There are. But there's a reason why certain people sound smarter than others. It's because we are. So there's that. And that sounds cocky. It does. But at the same time, you know, the reversal of that is people are here listening for answers. And a lot of those people are tired, frustrated, angry, mad, all those terms, and maybe some together. So it's like at the end of the day, I had a surgery years ago, and it was going to take like 5 years recovery, and it was going to be over. The doctor literally said, in a year, here's where you'll be. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. He was pinpoint accurate. And he said, but along the way, somewhere along that line, you're going to have to get pissed off, angry, and frustrated. And when you do, you're going to home in on what needs to be done to make that next step. So sometimes being pissed and angry and frustrated is not a bad thing. Sometimes it's not. Because if it's something you really want, then that means you're trying. And that means you reached a place to where you may be tired, angry, mad, frustrated at that moment, but that don't mean it's going to be your whole life. You just come back at it. Like my grandpa, when he was teaching me guitar, he said, don't get mad at the guitar. The guitar didn't do anything. When you get frustrated, put it down. Go get in your thought process. But if you really want that guitar bad enough, you'll go get in your thought process, and you'll simmer down, and you'll get collected, and then you'll go back to it. So a lot of people right now, they hear, oh, it's an operation. Oh, 45-47. Oh, he just keeps dragging this out. He just has something weekly. Well, I have something weekly because I have visuals and validations. Whether the people can see it or not, that's not my problem. And so when people hear my voice like this, it sounds like, oh, he's pissed off, he's mad. I'm angry for people. I'm mad for people because there are some people capable of thinking bigger for humanity, bigger for the nation, bigger for culture, bigger for versus ourselves. The flip side is the people who are angry, mad, bitter, frustrated, but don't know where to find the sources. They've been strategically dummied down and fed all this bull crap that just doesn't matter at the end of the day. So it puts, like my podcast last night, it's called Principles and Priorities. It shows where people's priorities are. For example, President Trump posted today. He posted something to do with Steve Bannon. All right. Then he turns around. Like if you'd have seen that post, it was a picture of two guys, and it said, these two guys were done extremely wrong by Sleepy Joe Biden and blah, 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 blah. And it's Steve Bannon and some other dude. You should see the comments under that thing. Oh, my Lord. You know, there's a prime example of a post that can be a post used as a climate post. Not the libtard climate word, but climate meaning put this up. Let's see what the comments say. Let's see what people are saying. Let's see what people are reading, stewing. Let's see where they are in their journey throughout this thing. Because if you take up for Steve Bannon right now, you got problems. Now, I'm not here to bash people, but we are in an operation that requires critical thinking, strategic thinking, analytical thinking, convergent thinking, divergent thinking, lethargic thinking, all kinds of thinking. Most people aren't doing that. Most people ain't even thinking. So, and then a lot of people don't know what to think because they don't have a foundation. But let's go back to President Trump's first term. Coming out of that, when the whole world thought that, oh, the election was stolen and blah, 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 and the whole world's falling on everybody. During that off season, when he was in the exile, the military operation heavy, he specifically said, and Dan Scavino made sure to emphasize this, one of his right-hand guys, that anybody from the first administration will not be in the next. Not a single soul, which should show you that this is all strategic. Because the moment President Trump does anything that's a contradiction or something that one post, let's say put it like a face-off, like a boxing match. You put one post up against the other post, you go, whoa, that's a double standard. That's a contradiction. These two, they butt heads. It's got to be one or the other. Because the moment President Trump does anything that's a contradiction, then the whole thing is compromised. And it would be just another 4 years, and it would just be another mudslinging and this going on and that going on. And we would never get out of this trash. And that's what I've talked about. People have heard me, the ones that follow me religiously, you've heard me say, if I didn't know what I know and what put where I was put by certain people, then I would say, you know what, the hell with everybody. I would be one of those veterans that you would never see again. I'd delete everything and say, you know what, good luck to yourselves. You're not getting any more of my brain. You're not getting any more of my operations. You're not getting any more of it. Because if people are just not going to listen and participate and get together, assemble the correct way, as the actual foundation reads, it didn't say protest, it says assemble. All right, completely different kind of terminology. So if I thought people weren't going to, then I would say the heck with everybody, because if we were just going to stay in the same old, and it was going to be the same old bull crap, social media, and so-and-so said this, and so-and-so did this, and so the hell with that, because that I don't even look. I mean, you know, that's probably why I'm single. you know, because I don't want to talk to a girl on a date about, well, Susie said this week. Blah, 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 blah. I don't care what Susie said. The hell with Susie, right? Let's talk about the hunting camp. Let's talk about going hunting. Let's talk about the beach. Let's talk about what's going on in our world, right? So that's drama. And the very people who say they don't love drama or they don't like it, they're the very ones who told it, create it, stew on it, wallow in it, stir it up, inflame it, pour more diesel fuel on it, turn around, run around, and play the victim of it. And so if you look at President Trump, I haven't even posted it yet. I've been deer hunting all day and don't care about the world on a Monday. So, you know, and he posted 2 posts today, back to back. And then yesterday he posted a post that really contradicts all 3, with the 2 today. Or it trumps it, all pun intended, the one yesterday. So there's a prime example. President Trump posts this photo. Oh, these 2 people were doing really, and more in the comments are all about them, some Steve Bannon. But Steve Bannon, President Trump has a White House statement now in the first term that Steve Bannon had nothing to do with his historic win. He was too busy about himself, too busy about the press, too busy trying to write phony books. Nothing to do with my presidency. That's President Trump's White House statement, quote. And then turns around, these Epstein, quote unquote, files, guess who's in them? Bannon. Guess who had recent photos with Epstein right before he, quote unquote, killed himself? Bannon. And who was this person with? Michael Wolff. Well, the post yesterday is President Trump doing what? I'm going to sue Michael Wolff. Well, not long ago, I screenshot Melania put a post up that Michael Wolff had said that Epstein had his rounds with Melania before President Trump got her. Now, who do you think that Donald John freaking Trump is going to side with? His wife or Bannon? Now, see, women will get that. Females will understand that completely. Because if you know this is an operation and you've read and you've studied, you've seen the laws, you've seen the orders, you know how they can join, you've seen the visuals, you've seen the validation, you'll know that it is a strategic and special operation. But then intricately, something like this, that the whole world's stewing over right now, because all of it ties in. Bannon, Wolff, Epstein, they all tie in. Clinton, all of it. It's all tying in. Then you have to come to knowing first you'd have to know that Melania posted that. You'd have to know what was said and what she is going to sue over as well, because President Trump gave her the nod. It's what the article reads, that President Trump tells her to pursue the lawsuit. All right, and it was with quote unquote Hunter Biden. He quoted that Michael Wolff. So see, all this is coming full circle. Right? So President Trump posted that yesterday that he's suing Michael Wolff. Well, guess who let Michael Wolff in the White House? Oh, that would be Steve Bannon. And then Michael Wolff wrote more books about President Trump, scandalous books that President Trump has posted before multiple times, calling out that they're fraudulent, they're scandalous, and they're trash. They're garbage. Now, sometimes negative publicity is good publicity. Sometimes. That is not negative publicity. That also wouldn't be strategic. Like, there wouldn't be some play on over here that, oh, we're going to bash Michael Wolff, we're going to bash Bannon, we're going to bash this, and then the liberals over here are going to soften up. Nah, not that. Then when you're talking about scandals, sex scandals, and you're talking about that kind, no. That wouldn't be strategic whatsoever. Trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, human trafficking. No, that would not be. Not like that whatsoever. And everyone, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, if that was like a strategic strategy, then everybody should raise hand over that, because then you'd be making a mockery out of trafficking. That wouldn't be a way to catch trafficking, because this would be drama. It would be unnecessary drama. When we have a judicial system that you could just throw that in quick, you could expose that quick, and you should want that exposed quick. So see, if you look at it from those angles, then you'll see that, okay, there's a bigger play on this in a different manner, because they wouldn't be using women and children, because that would be your inadvertent thinking. So the post today was another guy and Bannon and President Trump going, oh, these two guys were done so wrong by the Joe Biden, blah, blah, blah. All right, so if he's suing Michael Wolff, but he's over here praising Bannon when Bannon let Michael Wolff in the White House, and then Bannon and Michael Wolff met with Epstein before he quote unquote killed himself, and have all these interviews with him. I know people don't like Tucker Carlson, but I like how Tucker Carlson's personality is. I mean, that don't make any sense. So you're suing this guy. You've called him a fraud. You've called him a scandal. You've called him this. He talked about your wife. He said your wife did this. He said, but Bannon's a good guy all of a sudden. So then the other post was just another one here that President Trump followed back up with, and it wouldn't make sense. Wouldn't make any sense at all. That he goes, not only was I wasn't friendly with Jeffrey Epstein, but based on information that has been released by the Department of Justice, Epstein and sleazebag, all caps, lying, quote unquote, in quotes, quote unquote, author named Michael Wolff conspired in order to damage me and or my presidency. And Bannon let the bastard into White House. So see, I get pissed because I wasn't a part of politics whatsoever, period. Never. Not me. I know people who were, but I wasn't a part of politics. I'm not a part of politics. So see, people like Candace Owens and all these people out there, they were, even if you didn't know who they were, they already had platforms before President Trump took office in 2017. They had platforms. All right. It doesn't matter if you knew about them or not, or they were real super popular or not, they had platforms. Alex Jones been replaced. People can, oh my God, have mercy. Patriots out there taking up for people. And I'm like, just because you like what they say, they're supposed to say what you like. That is what a wolf in sheep's clothing does. That's how simple this stuff is. I mean, that is exactly what a wolf in sheep's clothing does. And President Trump put a video up a couple of days ago. And right when he said, if these people just shut up and let me cook, and it's a narrator, Alex Jones' photo pops up at that moment. Come on, Alex Jones pops up where it says, questioning the president. You wouldn't have to question President Trump if you knew military laws and federal laws, then orders, which are separate. The order is the carrying out of the law. If you knew all that, and if you would focus on that, whoever you are out there listening, I'm not talking to you patriots, but you know, when we post these, it does bring new people. If you'd focus on your priorities and get some priorities in your life and get some principles in your life and leave the drama out of it, it is that simple. 3 Obama and Clinton appointed judges blocked the 2005 through 2007. That dash matters too. 2005-2007 sealed grand jury material. 3 Obama appointed and Clinton appointed judges in July and August last year blocked Epstein's the real files. And then you go through 2005 all the way to 2017. The man who had the most leverage on anybody would have been Epstein. He was already a billionaire. He was already a powerhouse. He was already getting publicity. If his pal, that these liberals say they were pals, if President Trump was his pal, he would have had the greatest leverage over President Trump, not the other way around. Because the liberal media didn't get cleaned out, and they're still being cleaned out right now, but they didn't get cleaned out till President Trump got in. And really over the military government portion, not the first term. It started happening in 23 and 24. You started hearing about the FCC investigating. And that's all straight off of President Trump's executive orders with national emergencies. And so all those little things. So if anybody had leverage, it would have been Epstein on President Trump, especially if your pal, your buddy, old pal, is becoming the president of the world and he's the most popular person on the planet more than any other president in history because he wasn't a politician and he wasn't in the military. Pretty sure that would have been as simple. See, but people don't think like that. But what's crazy about it is the people who stew in drama are the very ones who do idolize names and idolize people and idolize rhetoric, which is crazy. That's also a weird kind of contradiction, that you idolize that, but you don't get publicity with Epstein. He'd have been the very one who could have said, cameras over here. I got all the dirt on my buddy old pal. See, and no one thinks like that. So from 2005 to 2017, 12 years, nothing. But patriots, you know, so you're excluded from this conversation at this moment because you already know. Because Bill Clinton, you name it. Projections. When people project things like they do, the liberals, and especially right now, they're guilty. Projections normally means you're guilty. Especially when you come out of nowhere accusing somebody of something and you're like, whoa, 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 hey, ho, why was my name in this? Right? It's every single person. I hope you've never experienced this in your life. Some of us have, but when you've dated somebody and they start accusing you of cheating, you're like, what? What in the world? Where'd you come up with it? They're normally projecting guilt, what they've done. When it comes out of nowhere and all of a sudden they're just lashing out and they're acting different, it's because they're feeling guilty. It's called a guilty conscience. It's called conviction. It's called a moral conscience. So, you know, the moral code, as the saying is, God gave us one. Not everybody uses theirs, but God did give us that. And so 2005 to 2012, we know, patriots know, but for the ones that don't know, it's real simple. You got to look at the leverage and then you got to look at the players in it. And then what's being presented. And then all of a sudden, Merrick Garland and Eric Holder back in this past September, the subpoenas, they didn't show up. They wrote in and said, we have no knowledge of any said files. Merrick Garland, the one that supposedly, quote unquote, appointed Jack Smith. And then Eric Holder, who hates President Trump like nobody's business, who was Obama's attorney general. Come on, people. If anybody, well, first off, you got to go back to if the liberal media is still in control like people think it is, and they're not. This is all operational. The Don Lemon stuff, operational. They're bringing all this down. But if they were still free range, in control, guess who would still have leverage? They would, because they were the ones that weaponized against President Trump in the beginning. So if they were still free roaming, free range, guess who could get publicity? Merrick Garland, Eric Holder, all these people. James Comey. The dude hadn't posted on his X account since June last year with 1.1 million followers. Everyone listening, you're probably 40 years old and older, and guess what you remember? Mudslinging. You remember the days before social media and they mudslung. But now they have social media, and this old dude, he gets on a video The media has the video, but it's not on his personal account. Come on, people. He hadn't posted since June last year with 1.1 million followers. I'm pretty sure if someone was talking trash about me and I had 1.1 million followers on one account and I had the goods on them, type it up. Bam! Sit down. See? Real simple. So Eric Holder, Merrick Garland, no knowledge of any said file. That was then. Guess who didn't show up for their depositions? Oh, listen to what they said too. So most Americans would say that Hillary and Bill are retired because they haven't been in the public limelight. They've been doing a few things strategically that the movie's supposed to show, because if they just completely disappeared, then that would also signal something else, and they don't want to signal that right now because this is an operation. But overall, Bill and Hillary have been relatively quiet. So all of a sudden, they got these depositions for being subpoenaed for the Epstein files, and their lawyer says they have to, quote unquote, reschedule because of scheduling. Come on, people. This is so fun and simple. It's an operation. It's all strategic. And again, if anybody could get publicity, and if the liberal media was still the liberal media that weaponized against President Trump, guess who would have the leverage? So see, if people would apply it that way and get a little pep in your step like my voice has tonight, then you would get in the mirror and you'd be like, yeah, especially if you're a patriot, especially if you're a Republican conservative, you'd be pumping, yeah, baby. This is freaking awesome. So where a lot of people get confused are the contradictory posts. Like President Trump in December, he posted about all of Joe Biden's executive orders, executive actions, proclamations, treaties, national emergencies, pardons, etc. Terminated all of them. Ladies and gentlemen, by law, if a president terminated 4 years worth of executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, treaties, and pardons at one time, that would be a judiciary pantomime. You talking about real chaos? That would be. All right. And President Trump puts that up. Terminated. Then he put another little term in there that you have to look up. It's a Latin. It has a Latin translation. No legal effect. Translates to void ab initio. Well, that means never existed. So there's your validation right there that 21 to 25 never existed lawfully. But then what happens is President Trump, within a day or so, he's posting what? Oh, the sleepy Joe Biden administration did this, that. They let all these immigrants in. They did it. So see, people, they find out what? They find out where people's climate is. What are people stewing on? Is it drama or is it information? Is it drama or knowledge? So a lot of people are failing the test badly, daily. And a lot of patriots that think they're patriots are failing badly. And then the other thing with Epstein is the fact that, again, 3 years into President Trump's presidency, the man was, quote unquote, alive. Right? So, well, why didn't he do anything? Why? And then 21 to 25, it's what Joe did and didn't do. Now, I know he wasn't real. I know he was an actor. And I know the whole administration wasn't. But for the people that thought he was and thinks he is, then you got to come at it that way. Go, okay, it's what they did and didn't do. All right. What the quote-unquote administration did do was continue all of President Trump's executive orders of national emergencies that are funding Doge, deporting the migrants, taking back the Panama Canal, freezing the assets of all the Chinese, anybody who funded the Chinese communist military. I mean, in the list goes termination of technology, termination of the mainstream media, that executive order, quote unquote, Joe, continue that. The very thing that's terminating CNN and MSNBC and all these things, The very thing that's going after Don Lemon, all of them. So you see, if you knew that, if you read that, studied that, comprehended that, then you'd be laughing, because if you thought it was real time, then all of a sudden you realize, wait, this isn't an operation, because that would be a contradiction on their part. You can't call someone a Nazi, a dictator, a king when you continue the same executive order that gave the law enforcement and the enforcement agencies that command to take out what it is they're taking out. So there's that. So all the Epstein stuff is drama. It's drama, drama, drama. And I used this example last night just to make this a little lighter, to maybe give you a little chuckle over there. But like me, I'm a single dude, right? I'll be 43 in 6 days, 7 days, 6 days, whenever it is. I can't remember. But, all right, but single, right? I don't know if I'm ugly. I don't know if I'm good looking. Don't really care. But let's just say that I'm halfway decent. All right. If I had 25 women rolling in and out and in and out and in and out of my house, and you knew about it, you know what you'd call me? A male whore. But if you get a camera crew, lights, camera, 25 roses, right? 24 roses, 25 girls. That's it. And then NBC's going to pick it up. It's going to be big. We're going to have all this viewership. We're going to have all these advertisements. We're really going to get people. And then we're going to call it love. We're going to call it romance and all this other stuff. And then, you get an hour. You get to hug them, kiss them, love them, and you know what them. All right. Sorry for being graphic, but not sorry. Proving a point. You get to do all these things with all these women, right? Cameras, lights, and then at the end of it, you got 24 roses, 25 girls. You gotta cut one of them. And then when you cut one of them, well, it's gonna be 23 roses left. There's gonna be 24 girls. And you're gonna work your way down. And don't worry, we're gonna have you a biography, and we're gonna have you someone that sounds just like Paul Harvey. Well, this young lad right here, he grew up in the South, and he is a Christian young man, and he was in the military, and he did this. And guess what? Guess what Americans do? Oh, this young lad that grew up in the South, grew up on a farm, and he grew up cowboying, and he was in the military, and he's all of a sudden a what? A gentleman. Cameras, lights, TV, gentleman. No cameras, lights, TV, whore. And it's the same women. So see, that's I mean, Epstein, where were these people? If it's you listening, where were you? Where have you been? Why weren't you demanding justice when he first had to run in with the law? So see, it shows where people's priorities are. It shows where people's priorities and principles are. They have zero. Because Epstein is old news. Now, the part that's real is the child trafficking, is the sex trafficking, is the human trafficking, is all that. But see, the drug trafficking portion, President Trump will not be bombing the ever-living hell out of the drug trafficking. No time before in the Navy, all the men and women, but all the seamen who have literally been in the Navy before President Trump, majority of them that were doing their jobs correctly can tell you that when they would intercept drug trafficking, that they'd take it into port. Oh, it might hit the news, San Diego, and then they'd loop it right back to Colombia, right back to Venezuela, right back. They didn't destroy any of it. They didn't destroy any of these cartels. They didn't destroy anything. They didn't decimate anything. President Trump's decimating and obliterating. And if you knew anything about drug trafficking is one of the main forms that funds the other trafficking. So if you knew that, and you knew, like, while the liberals were losing their minds, they wouldn't be losing their minds. They wouldn't be losing it like this if he was one of them, or if he was collaborating and all these other things that you hear out there too. So there's a lot of moving mouths and moving lips who just don't know nothing about nothing. And it's like President Trump said during COVID. He said a great quote that you can take and apply to any situation. He said the cure cannot be bigger than the problem. So now we're in a different scenario. Take out the word cure. It could work still, but let's just take it out and put in there the solution cannot be bigger than the problem. And that's why if you'll listen to some of the commanders, they've been doing this for 40, 50, 60 years operational. And they'll answer things within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences, 3, 4, 5 minutes, depending on the subject matter. Depends on what it is. Depends on what we're asked, and then it depends on what how many layers it needs. But most of the time it is pretty concise and precise. And that's how commanders work. And that's what President Trump and them are working with. And then you flip around to the other thing, what quote unquote Joe did not do. But see, you got to be military mainly. You don't have to be a veteran, no, but at the same time, you have to have extensive military knowledge into Title 10 and Title 32 and Title 50. Title 32 has many chapters. Title 10 and 32, they have many chapters. They have many sections. And you'll see people out there getting confused on the National Guard, when they can be federalized. And there's many different kinds of federalizations. There's many different kinds of invocations of the National Guard, of the reserve components. There's many different kinds. It's not super many, but there's a few different things. So why didn't quote unquote Joe, even though military orders are not continuation orders, this is very key. They're not continuation. But for the sake of argument and the sake of debate, which is it's crazy, but you have to do it. Why didn't quote unquote Joe terminate President Trump's Title 10 and Title 32 orders? They're not continuation orders, meaning one president invokes Title 10 and then it gets carried over to the next president. That's not how it works. That's why the liberals yelling that the president has to have congressional authorization is so hilarious, because President Trump has that. Quote unquote Joe don't. Obama didn't. But Obama's was a different situation that's going to be brought up in history for another reason. That was an overreach, and that was also abuse of power in another manner. That is why you have President Trump. So when you talk quote unquote Joe not having one wasn't the same as Obama, because there's laws that show there's a strategic operation going on. That's why I always put brackets around 45-47. You got to put brackets around it. That's separate than any other time in history. There's a line in the sand between 44 and 45. So why didn't, even though they're not continuation, but you still have to ask that question to get people's mind to be jogged and go, hey, look, military orders are not continuation orders. When a president uses the military by what they established in 1973, which is unconstitutional, but President Trump used their bullcrap against them, then via the War Powers Resolution Act, a president must have congressional authorization after 90 days, 60 days and a 30-day withdrawal period. So 90 days. We're well after 90 days. The southern border, Proclamation 9844. That was February the 5th, 2019. President Trump, you saw President Trump at the border in 2024. He was the only person with a presidential title seen at the border, with the governor and the adjutant general of Texas. The adjutant general is the one that gives it all away, because the adjutant reports to the governor unless the National Guard are federalized by Title 10. Well, why wasn't quote unquote Joe seen with the governor and the adjutant general ever? He wasn't even seen, period, much less at the border. So see, this is where people struggle, because during that time period when I was explaining that to people, people were Googling, and what happened? It said what? That President Biden terminated that Title 10. No, he didn't. The National Guard were there the week before and the week after. 14 states deployed to Texas the week before President Trump got there and the week after. So what were they operating on? There wasn't a Title 10 anywhere. There wasn't a Title 32 anywhere by quote unquote Joe. So see, there's a time when Google doesn't serve you either, or whatever it is, because that, or DuckDuckGo, whatever you're using, it's still a search engine that's going to search all the sources out there, and all the sources at that time were what? Quote unquote what? Fact checkers, right? A fact checker literally wrote to me, threatening me from freaking Uganda or somewhere over there, somewhere in the continent of Africa, right? Threatening, meaning like, oh, we're going to delete your page and blah, blah, to my Facebook and everything. The literal fact-checking organization was based, I still have it screenshot, all their emails, all their numbers, was based out of the continent of Africa. I can't remember what country they were in. You're going to question a retired military veteran, and you're going to fact-check people who don't even know a single thing about United States history, 1, 2, lineage, 3, heritage, 4, laws, 5, orders. And see, that's the stuff that people get hung up on, because people do resort to Google and DuckDuckGo, but they don't know what to look up, and they don't know how to make it applicable because they don't understand the language. They don't understand the application of the language. And that's why it's so important. If you really want to know what President Trump's doing, what he's working with, you got to know that language and how to think like that, which is going to mean divorcing your feelings, divorcing your emotions, and also divorcing what you think you've known your whole life, and just put that aside. And I'm not talking about your personal life experiences whatsoever, because every one of you, if you're over 40, you have wisdom. You have some form of wisdom. You have some form of experience that got you where you are, that makes you think differently, to have Telegram, to look and find and seek. But at the end of the day, the solution can't be bigger than the problem. So to want to know what's going on, you got to know what the commander's working with. Real simple. That's it. I mean, that is literally all it is. And don't make it complicated. Keep it simple. Now, there's a saying out there, keep it simple, stupid, KISS, and they teach this in business colleges and different things, but it really probably should have said keep it stupid simple. But anyways, the guy who coined it was keep it simple stupid, and he wasn't calling the person stupid, but anyways, it was coined that way. It's just saying, hey, look, don't complicate things. Don't muddy the water. You don't have to muddy the water. That's why all these people who jump ship, like Ryan Garcia, I'm going to call him out tonight, like that piece of trash. I was with him when he met President Trump for the first time ever. The dude, he literally would have dry humped a bag of tacos. I'm making a Mexican joke because he's Mexican. I mean, the dude literally almost peed his pants. I mean, you should have seen the look in his face, right? And he's 27 years old. He's barely wet behind the ears. He's been a boxer. He turned pro at like 16 or 17. He's filthy rich, right? So boxers, just get in the ring and box. Boxers are mean. That's why they get in the ring and they beat each other up like they do. They have techniques for boxing, but techniques for boxing doesn't equal IQ whatsoever. And so, this dude literally exposed himself and didn't have to. What he said, I'm recanting, F President Trump, him in the Epstein files and 13-year-old girls. This dude literally just exposed himself, but also misled all these people out there that maybe he was shining a light on for being this guy who was for President Trump and standing up and being a figure out there, notable figure in the boxing world. And then he goes and does that. And I was with him when he met President Trump. I also met his entourage and got photos with him. And he held up the Midnight Rider in a photo, in a video. I have it forever. At Mar-a-Lago, the famous steps coming out right there. You can see.
I saw it. I saw it.
Now the famous entrance to Mar-a-Lago's got gold on it. When we were there, it wasn't gold yet, but it's the same spot. You can see it. Well, so if the dude would read the book, if he even had the IQ to read it, well, his entourage guy, one of them, messaged me, and he was talking back and forth, and he's like, well, why would it look like this if this was an operation? Why would President Trump kill the economy on purpose? And see, people can't think bigger. You can't think bigger. You can't think strategic because, one, most people are not in that arena. You're not in this field. But that's what's going on. And even if I died today, died tomorrow, if I killed away, if I terminated all my stuff, if I just disappeared out of your life, guess what's still there? The laws and orders. The 45-47 still in the ball cap. I didn't put that there. This ain't a dream. You didn't dream it up. It's there. The laws and orders are there. They're still in vote. They're there. They still outline what they outline. So, all these people out there jumping ship, they're just showing they're either low IQ and or don't care to know that portion. They're just caught up in the surface level drama. They're not a part of it. He is not a part of this operation. And I know a lot of people get confused with that out there because you're like, well, who is and who ain't? I'm like, you don't worry about that. You don't have to worry about that. If you're studying and reading what you're supposed to know, then as it rolls forward, you'll see the ones dropping like flies, and then you'll see the ones rising. That old saying that cream always rises to the top, you'll see that, right? So someone asked me the other day, how does secret military, how do y'all know who you are? And I'm like, well, because are you a good person? Only you know if you're a good person or not, right? But when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing daily, your moral conscience, your conviction, your guilty conscience, your humanity, your compassion, your kindness, and all that portion, those are actions. Those are not words. A lot of people use them. Oh boy, they use them. But they're actions. Faith is an action. Love is an action. They're all actions. They're not words. They're actions. So when you make all those applicable in what you're doing, yeah, you're going to have some bad days. Yeah, someone's going to pull out in front of you. You're going to flip them off. There's going to be some days that you have that. Sure. But overall, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, then you'll know good quality people. You'll know that. Because especially if you're over 40, I keep using that term, but once you get over 40, there's some of this drama that the world stews on. You're like, man, do you realize how much energy you're wasting just doing that, saying that, and even worried about that? Like, I mean, I was climbing out of my deer stand today thinking, golly, I used to could get up in this tree a lot easier. And now I'm give out doing that. And all I cared about was getting to the house. Right? And all these people out there daily on post after post, just why? Right? So little things like that. So, the world is going through a revolution. It's already there. Some other person, who was that celebrity yesterday, called for a revolution, something like that. But we're already going through it. Now, I think they were talking another way. But that's all strategic as well. Look at all the people Jane Fonda's back talking trash again, Kathy Griffin, all the ones that were, putting severed heads of President Trump up, the same ones. So why are people stewing over that? They shouldn't be, because that's all strategic. They're amping this up. Now we're amping it up, though, because of the Russiagate, and we're amping it up because of the Epstein. They're amping things up. And then the election fraud. And here we are 6 years, 5 years in one way, but 6 years removed from that election. What Americans have got to do is you got to get strategic, and you have to get angry, mad, and frustrated the right way, to where in the future, it don't take 4, 5, 6 years for something like that to go through a lawful process. In reality, the true lawful process outside of the weaponized judiciary system that it's been the past 100 years, 150, however far you want to go back. But Americans should be pissed over that, because naturally your family and friends, even your family and friends that are Republican conservative, not patriot, not awake, but those of you who are truly awake, truly patriots, your family and friends that are just Republican conservative on the lighter side, they even are like, oh, yeah, we kind of knew that. They're shrugging it. The liberals on the other side, now it's not as many as them, but they have a louder bark, and they will assemble. Oh boy, do they get together. And if you give them an inch, they're going to take 1,000,000 miles, and they're going to skull drag your IQ the whole way, right? Because they're dumb as bricks, but they all are dumb together. So in one way, it works because they at least stick together. They all hate the same things. They all are in the same boat. Republicans are fighting each other, fighting their mamas, fighting their daddies, and here and that, and this and that, and then one breaks up and then goes over here, and they all, it just, you talking about pandemonium. Republicans are that way. Conservatives are that way. No principles, no priorities, right? But if everyone will know what you're supposed to know, and it's going to be cleaned out, this whole thing is being cleaned out, but you got to prevent it from happening again. So to prevent it from happening again is to know it, to know what is and what ain't, how it functions and how it don't, etc. So, but 5 years to take that long. So the liberals over there go, oh, well, you know, President Trump cheated in the last election. So see, they say President Trump. So see, what's the common denominator? The common denominator is the National Guard. And then it goes back to, okay, military orders are not continuous. So the National Guard have been deployed for the 2018, 2020, 22, and 24 elections, all on the same mission. They've never been deployed before that for the election. So you can Google that. You can go look at 2008, 2012. There's no data that shows they were. And then you type in 18, 20, 22, and 24, and it tells you they were. So see, why would, there's no why, because they're not continuous orders. So that's where it's hard to break that down, because I don't want to confuse new listeners out there. There's no continuation order. So that you can't even say, why would quote unquote Joe have the National Guard at the 22 and 24 elections when the world thought President Trump was a former president? That solves it alone right there. Now, even if they're under state active duty status, and only veterans are going to really understand that, but state active, it still doesn't matter. Federal, so the elections are state run, but it still tallies up to the federal level. So it still would qualify for state and federal. States do run their elections, but you can't have election fraud in certain states. So therefore, that's when federal steps in. So it's really a joint operation. And you've seen that. And on November the 3rd, the actual 2020 election, that's why they had a 4-star general that day put a tweet out. He's talking about, we have our U.S. Cyber Command, we have our National Security Council, and our National Guard, and our joint partners around the world watching the elections. And they were talking about the data. He's talking about the actual computer systems. So the common denominator for Republicans that don't know what's going on or stewing over this, and liberals that are all there, it's like, hey, you guys are fighting, but here's a common denominator. If you're going to argue with the military, who are from all different walks of life, all different religions, all different backgrounds, all different everything, you're the problem, both of you. So see, when they yell, especially the liberals, oh, don't obey unlawful orders. First off, you got to know what a lawful order is. You got to know what is and what isn't. And that's why they look so stupid. And you have to use the term stupid. I know people don't like that word sometimes, but ignorant means you're ignorant, that you can be educated, right? Stupid means that you have been told over and over and over, and you just won't listen. You're selfish. You won't listen. And that's what these people are. They're stupid. They're acting stupid if they aren't stupid. So, you know, you can't be yelling, "Don't obey unlawful orders" to the National Guard, and then turn around and the National Guard lay out all the real data. There's no way they're going to be able to come back from that. So that's the common denominator. But if people would apply that, see, people hear this all the time. A lot of people, hey, look, I'm talking about my other followers too on Facebook, etc. My inboxes will be lit up, and I'm like, people hear it, but they're not making it applicable. They're not applying what they're hearing. You got to go read it. You got to go study it. If you're an audio listener, you still got to go read it, study it, and see it on paper. You don't need to just take someone's word for it. You need to go see the .gov, the .mil sites. I don't use .net. I don't use .org. I don't use any of those unless the links are on a .gov or .mil site. Sometimes they do have a .org or something that they have posted on their site. So see, that's the source. There's your source. There's your solution. That's what they're working with. And it's like I tell liberals, the few I've ever met in my life, and the Democrats out there, I'm like, look, you need to know this too. You need to know exactly what I'm talking about. Because if you can't sit credibly at a table with all this yelling, kicking, cussing, screaming, and all this up, frame up and trying to steal stuff and frame things, if all that stuff, then you're the problem, right? So if you can't sit and have a logical conversation about what benefits us, what benefits us as a whole. Your religion don't hurt me. I know plenty of people who are atheists and Buddhists who follow me, and they know I'm a Christian. They know what I believe. But how does that affect them? It doesn't. Because our common denominator is, how do we live and let live, but without infringing on each other's personal rights, but also having a federal, small, but federal, that what? Highways, interstates, sidewalks, city lights, things of that nature. What does a city light and a sidewalk have to do with what you worship or who you worship? Not a thing whatsoever, right? And then when you look at other things like, like highways that need to be paved, well, do you want to pay as you go, or do you want to have a tax for it, or what? That's stuff that people I talk about, right? And go and then come together. But you can't have those few that, struggle in there, straggle in there. Hey, where'd this come from? What are y'all doing? Where have you been? That's what you got to do to them. Where have you been? Why are you just now showing up? We've been doing this for 2, 3, 10 years, whatever it is. You said, where have you been? Right? So things like that. People have to get involved the right way. But that's why politicians for years wouldn't listen to people, which they're supposed to because they work for us. But they wouldn't listen to people because people come in the door kicking, cussing, screaming, yelling, and it's a bunch of hogwash. There's no construction and no constructive criticism, period. So criticism's not always bad. It's just it needs to be constructive, and it needs to be clear, concise, precise, and show that, hey, you know what the heck you're talking about, right? Now, that person can still ignore you and shun you, sure. But once, let's say that the person who is concise, and precise goes to people and small groups around that want to be involved, and you go, hey, this person's doing this and this and this, and they're funneling this, and they're doing this and this, and I have the goods and that. Then when people see that, then when that number grows, and then that number goes in, to that person at a city hall, at a town hall, a city council, or whatever it may be, and you present that, and let's say their colleagues didn't know, then all of a sudden, those colleagues may go, I'm going to dig into this. And then those colleagues may be part of you. They may have that conscience. They may have that. And they may be like, whoa, right? So it's always a fight. America's always a fight. It's an ideology. It's not like I don't know what I could bring up that you would fight for out there, but your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, right? You'll fight for them if you love them, right? But America is an ideology. A person is a person, but America is just an ideology. It's a bunch of great literature It is excellent literature that our founders established, but it's still literature. It's you have to put it into action. I mean, but you have to read it and know that, and then put it in action. Right? It's like being a Christian. A lot of Christians don't even read their Bible, and I'm like, well, you're not a Christian. Johnny Cash, he couldn't be bought from the industry. That's why he's famous for flipping off the camera, because that's when he was going through. He was like, he wasn't going to be bought by the labels, the industry, and he realized it was all corrupt and all these other things. But the label was trying to tell him, you Christian folks don't want to see you singing to a bunch of prisoners and rapers and murderers. And he said, well, they're not Christian. Because someone still has to talk to them. It don't matter what they did. See, you know, every prisoner in years past got a meal and a chaplain, especially before they died, right? And you got people out there, you quit to hang them up, string them up, and they might deserve it. But you do too, because you may have not gotten caught like they got caught. So see, that's why all this stuff is a mellowing of all the justifications in the world. When everybody's a sinner, whether you're a Christian or not, doesn't matter. You still, you have a moral conscience. You have a guilty conscience. You do certain things. You don't do certain things because what? Society will judge you on it, right? And then society will punish you on it, right? So it's still there. And so all these people, man, if you went to court today, ooh boy, you're going to be guilty, quit, straight out the gate. And Americans will literally, this has been the case in smaller cases, not so much the ones they put on TV for years past, but there will be cases, man, like forensic files that you can watch, like legit people's lives. And then there'll be someone that'll say, yeah, I was a suspect for a while and they were wrongfully accused. DNA proved it. And then especially in today's technology, like an iPhone pings and it'll ping to the exact location. The exact location. Well, there are still people who have been proven by DNA and technology absolutely not there, couldn't have done it, didn't do it, and people will still, 50% of people still go, I think it was them. That is where we are in the world. And I say that not laughingly, but I chuckle a little bit because I'm like, in deep down, that you're a piece of trash. That's what you are if you think like that. And now keep it to yourself if you still thought that. But those people, most of these Americans, they'll still voice it, get on social media, and they just hammer away. It's like that stuff you keep yourself. But that's also stuff that's called judgment. And that'll come back on you, right? So everything that President Trump, you know, all this Epstein, all this other stuff, it's really there's a lot going on with it to quell, meaning like to simmer Americans and their judgment and all this other stuff, and you don't have the evidence. And then we're in a 50-50 era. We're in technology now. We're in the 50-50 era. So look at AI. My books, The Midnight Rider Rides Again. I didn't do that cover. A buddy of mine did. But then I did my Deplorable Pilgrims. I did that. And it has more graphics on it than any of my books. I did that. And I suck at technology when it comes to graphics and Photoshop and all those things. Suck at it. God didn't give me that ability. I have the creative side to think it, but I going in all these different apps and all these different things, it's not for me. And then I have family members who do it, and they still charge me an arm and a leg. I'm like, I thought we were family, but they still charge me an arm and a leg for their gift, which they should. But so I suck at it. But we're in a 50-50 world now. That now you're going to have to question everything. And I'm not a fan of AI. I'm not a fan of it, meaning like I would be fine if we didn't have social media. I would love to go back to the old days. It'd be great. And I mean, it's funny that I'm almost 43 years old. I'm sitting here talking about the old days. Like, you know, it's like, but I remember the days when we had a landline. It had the cord that was like 50 foot long. Especially when they started coming out with the long ones, you'd stretch it, see as far how that baby would stretch, right? So those. And some of you remember the party lines. I remember learning Hank Williams' song. I grew up right near Hank Williams. My grandfather was roommates with the legendary Hank Williams Sr. And I remember learning the song, well, the woman on the party line's a nosy thing. She picks up her receiver when she notices my ring. Why don't you mind your own business? I learned that song and learned those lyrics. I didn't know what the heck a party line was. I remember asking my dad when I was about 16 or 17. I was like, Dad, what is a party line, by the way? I've been singing this song. I don't even, what does he say? What does he mean, a party line? He was like, ha ha, the party line. And we were sitting there with my grandma and grandpa, and he goes, the party line was these people, these operators. And he's like, you can listen in on someone's conversation. Everybody could pick up and listen in, talking to your girlfriend. Everybody knew everything about everybody, right? That was the original gossip line, right? So the party lines, I didn't grow up with the party lines, but I would go back to that because guess what happened? People had accountability. You talked too much, you got your head knocked off, right? You didn't say too much because you knew old Uncle Billy was going to put one down your throat. Meaning, like, he's going to put his fist just as far as he could across your teeth and make you walk around looking like you're from Buckatona, Mississippi, right? So look at where we are in the world. We're in a 50-50. AI, you're going to have to question a lot of things. But the reason why we got to have it, though, is guess who's going to have it? The enemy will have it. So someone created it, whether it was good or bad, someone created it. And then we have to be forced to what? Accept it, because guess who will accept it? The enemy. And even good people who let's say that there were good people who created it with not bad intentions. Let's just say that. But there are things that were created for good that, what's the Bible say? That God intended for good, man does what? Make evil, right? So that's why you're always going to have to, everything in life, we're always going to have something that you have to stay on top of. Always. And we find out who is and who ain't and who will and who won't quick. So AI, technology, we're in a 50-50. So all these files out there, you're going to see things pop up, and you're going to see people in the liberal world, because the algorithm, there's another thing that some of you need to learn, the algorithms. When you get in these comment boxes and you're typing, and the more comments and the more likes, the more loves, the more shares, that algorithm makes that post more visible to more people. And there's a lot of pages, blue check, red check, but there's also a lot of posts that do not need to be viral, which is pretty much every Republican right now, that they're just misleading all these people with all this drama and propaganda, and majority of them are not part of the operation whatsoever. Liberals are a whole level of atrocious with their posts and their comments. And algorithms are what gear that. It's a coding system, and it was established for good, but guess what took place? Algorithms. So that's why every American, every person, whatever you are, you have to know these things. Know how it operates, know how it functions. Know, okay, if I comment on this, I'm contributing. And if everybody will think like that, then everybody joins together. That may be someone that don't blow up for the right reasons. So little things like that. They're not jumping off of that, getting over to, you talked about the Grammys and all that. You know, here's another great example. I had Billboard hits before getting this opportunity to get back in the position I'm in. Small, tiny little position, but position. I had Billboard hits, the biggest hits in country music. The biggest chart in the whole genre. I was on it. But I didn't do it with a major record label. So here's a great example. Man, when I'm doing a podcast on country music, I'll normally, like, my videos are still getting 75, 100,000 views, somewhere there on Facebook, which is still pretty good for a 2-hour, 3-hour video. Well, when I do a country music video, I'll have probably 2,000 views. That shows that people want to build a better society based on their own truth. They also want free information that fits their bubble. See, yes, I'm operational, but I'm also intellectual. Meaning, like, yeah, I was given a spot, but my intellectual property, the way I think, no one can, you can't you can't think like me. I can try to help you, but you still won't be able to do it, right? Because I'm on top of it. And so the whole country music thing, these people out there, boy, I start talking about that, and I'm like, you do realize I had Billboard hits first, correct? You do. Are you not listening to me? Because they're not, clearly. This all ties in. Every aspect of it ties in. All of it. College football. This NIL, name, image, likeness, the money, the portal, the football portal where kids can quit their team and transfer and all. That's all ABC, ESPN, and Disney. They're all tied in. And I'm going to say this now. I'm safe to say it. But I was at Mar-a-Lago, 2 years ago now. And I was sitting there, and I took a photo. I eased the camera up and boop, took a photo. Wasn't supposed to, but I did. I mean, I was given permission, but I was told not to post it. And I didn't. But I took a photo of President Trump with the Disney CEO. So there's operations going on. And in 2021, heavily, they were operating all under the tunnels of Disney in Florida. And so, you know, but people, they see what they want to see. This is not new news. Now, that portion of me sitting and getting that photo and whatnot is, but I say that to say, country music, same thing. All these major record labels, they're all tied in. Warner Brothers, Sony. Sony's based out of Japan. Come on, people. This big corporate. So they're throwing in what they call throw the hatchet. They're throwing the hatchet. That's what Jelly Roll did last night. He threw the hatchet. Boy, country music, especially. Country music was the most family-oriented genre out there for years. And it was based on the Grand Ole Opry first. Well, first, it started in Bristol, Virginia, Bristol, Tennessee, the very first. Then it came to Nashville, and it was the Ryman, the Grand Ole Opry. They'd have an hour of gospel and 2 hours of country music. That was the original format. Then it got into all these publishing companies and labels and Billboard chart, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew. Well, if it can grow, though, it can be what? It can be drained. So you got to know someone that knows the system. So look at what the Lord did with me. I go in the system. I worked for major artists, songwriters, producers. I've been in and out of all these major record labels in Nashville. And then I figured out one portion of the system. Then I left. I went in the military for a while, came back, recorded an album. Then I got hit up by these big executives, but they were out of the arena of the major record label. They were in the independent sector, and they couldn't stand, and they hated what was going on in country music. And they pulled every string known to man with me. On average, ladies and gentlemen, it cost $750,000 for one song to get in the top 60 on Billboard. And that's if it makes it. I have a friend, her team pulled out at $575,000, and they didn't even chart. So that's like going down the highway and rolling down your window and throwing out $500,000 because you're not getting back. You've never heard of her to this day. That's just one person. All right, $750,000 for one freaking song just to get on a chart independently. That's competing with the major record labels. That's getting your name on the chart. My guys did that with $25,000, ladies and gentlemen. That's how big this is. We beat their system really, really bad. And I'm not a major record label artist. I've been signed to major pub deals before, publishing being a songwriter a long time ago. So I know the farm. I know their farm, but I didn't get bought out. I didn't get compromised. I went in there and beat their system with peanuts. I am the true freaking underdog. I'm the one with all the secrets to country music. If this would have happened 15 years ago, I'd be dead now because they did have a music mafia. But the music mafia people, I know a lot of them, they're rooting me on because this bigger mafia the real mafia, the real secret society, the real connectors that connects to all the swamp threw in the hatchet, right? So they used the same language. They used all the right lyrics. They used all the right hooks to you. Titles, lyrics, family this, and oh, dear God, and this, and God. Jelly Roll threw the hatchet in. Jesus Christ, Jesus, I would, baby, if it weren't for you and Jesus, and Jesus. And what are the Christians doing? Christians eating it up. And Jelly Roll is on a video not long ago, and he's saying, listen to me, young artists. Listen to me. I can make a lot of, I could do this for this. This is where the major labels F you. F-U-C-K. He literally tells, quote unquote, young artists, but he don't tell young artists what I told everybody in the book. This was #1 bestseller, by the way. He did. But is my stuff viral with the country music part? Nope, sure ain't, is it? Because people don't want to hear the truth. But what he told people would be like, you know, oh, you got to put oil in your vehicle or it won't run eventually. All right. That's what, no, I'll tell you, hey, here's how oil is made. Here's why you put oil in your vehicle. Here's what happened if it does and doesn't and this and that. I'm the very first person in country music history, artist, songwriter, first in country music history to explain how it all works. It's not about the song, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about the genre. It's not about family. It's not about God. It's not about any of that. So they're throwing in the hatchet. And what did Nicki Minaj do? Now, I had a message, and I started out with this earlier, very first portion of the podcast. I said, you know, I'm receiving message. So I'll show you an example. I receive a message that says, oh, she sings nasty songs and blah, blah, blah. That's not the point of why I posted Nicki Minaj's post. See, that's people who, drama. I don't give two shits about Nicki Minaj. I don't go around listening to any of that stuff. I don't care. It's the operational portion. She posted about, oh, they can say that. Anyway, it was, let me see if I can read it real quick. I got it right here where she said specifically that as they do their ritual tonight, God Almighty will reveal himself to them. The ritual will backfire on them. God will not be mocked. Blessed is the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Every tongue that rises up against me in judgment shall be condemned and put to shame. Watch. And she put a little magic wand and some stars.
So real quickly, Derek, let me help, not you need help, but for the audience, help the audience out a little bit. So understand, and I tell my audience, and when I'm in other chats or whatever speaking, when you learn that it's an operation and understand what that means, you'll get it. What she is doing, she's got a huge following, everybody. So by her putting that out there, no differently than they do it with Travis Kelce and what's her name? Oh my gosh, Taylor Swift. They try to, you know, she's getting to the audience, right? She's defending Trump and she's basically coming out and exposing these people. So I just kind of want to put that in perspective. That's what she's doing. It's not about Nikki being a good person or anything like that, because, you know, you got to go deeper on that with her. But remember, there's a lot of useful idiots out there and they're being used for such a time as this. Sorry, Dick, I had to say that. Go ahead.
Well, you have to use certain people that are controversial too. That is a controversial thing because of her lyrics, and she's using the word God herself, and the Christians out there, oh, she's got nasty words and this. Okay, but you know, the same thing the liberals are accusing President Trump of nastiness, right? So you can't pick and choose, right? That is the portion where if you're a Christian, be a Christian. You live your life. Quit judging others. You don't know God. Who knows? I do this all the time in fun. But I do. I'm like, who invented the middle finger as the bad thing? Who started that? Where did that start in the world? Where was it? Was it in a third world country somewhere? And the chief walked around and said, sit on this and rotate, pal. You know, whatever they did. But who made the middle finger bad? I like my middle finger because it's the longest finger. Like, why can't I use my middle finger? Right? So there's some fun, right? Have some laughs with it. Right? So it's like but I may get to heaven one day. We may all get to heaven one day. And God be like, you could have used the middle finger the whole time. You could have actually used screw you sometime. Who knows? Don't worry about that, right? Because if we're all guilty, we're all guilty, right? You won't be no like, oh, you use your middle finger more than this one did, so the one who used it more, you're going to hell. If people would quit with all that nonsense, all of it's nonsense, this holier than thou mentality, and truly get even operational, even if you didn't know there was an operation going on, even outside the operational part, all these people, oh, she's nasty lyrics. Well, Charlie Daniels was a big patriot. Well, the devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for a soul to steal, and he was in a bind. He was way behind. Well, he wrote that song. He wrote most of his songs, by the way, solo. But he wrote it when he was in the 70s out there. And a lot of people don't know he wrote a big Elvis song to begin with. That's what launched Charlie Daniels, by the way. But Charlie Daniels, he wrote, I done told you once, you son of a beep, I'm the best it's ever been. Well, when he became a Christian, he went back in and recorded that. And he put, I done told you once, you son of a gun, I'm the best it's ever been. But then he tried to sue radio stations for still playing when they would play it. A radio actually used to play the song with the SOB in it, fully said. Well, he actually had even though he wrote the song, in law, a lot of people don't know this, but like if I wanted to record a song that Shenandoah did, next to you, next to me, that song. I'll just pick one random because I know the guy that wrote it, and I know Shenandoah really well. They're good guys, and they're part of the good portion. But next to you, next to me. If I wanted to record that, guess what? Once it goes through this system that they established in music, my songs, even the songs that I've written, when I put it out there, any artist can cover my song, and I can't stop them. Now they have to pay me licensing. They have to contact me and my management and say, hey, what's the licensing on this? And they may not want to pay the licensing, which can stop them. That could deter them. But they may be like, you know what? I love this song so much, I'm going to pay you that licensing fee every year and record it. So that's a portion that people don't even know about music, licensing. And, so I say all that to say that even the music portion. So right now, Kid Rock has this tour going around. And certain art, Ludacris and all these other, they're dropping out. They're dropping off. Well, there's a line in the sand everywhere that's been drawn. It's also getting people stirred up in it, getting them engaged in it. Because President Trump said it. Now, I don't like it, and most of you don't like it, and even operators hate it. But what did President Trump say? Give them what they want. So most Americans are what? They're piranhas on drama. So you got to, everything has to be done for them, not you. If you're a patriot, it sucks maybe, yes, because you're fully awake, you're fully intact, you know what's going on, and you're like, yeah, why does it have to look like? Well, because of them. So President Trump says, give them what they want. So they're getting what they want, and they're getting them engaged. And all this is going to lead to what? The revelation. Because they had the movie Melania, which is a documentary. What did they emphasize in that documentary? The 45-47 on the license plate, right? So they're leading all these things up. They're getting all the actors and actresses involved. They're getting all the singers out there, certain ones involved, right? And then I've told people before, President Trump cannot be exonerated by one single Republican, one single conservative, one single military person whatsoever. He has to be exonerated by the other side. The white flag of surrender. That is truly how you bring people in unity together. So that's what they're doing right now. So all the Obama and all the other stuff that's amping up, Obama actually posted, I screenshot it too. Obama posted a while ago. Oh, well, I say a while ago, about 10 hours ago. He posted about, Congress needs to do this, or with the last treaty of nuclear. Well, if you actually go read the treaties of the nuclear treaties, Peace treaties. Damn it.
I was like, wait a minute,
Treaty
what he's
Petey.
saying?
Okay, well, I just created a
Treaties.
whole new word. That's
Peace
my
treaties.
word. You heard it right here. That's my word. Anyway, but the trees Petey's, the Petey's. All right, so there you go, new word. It's peace and a treaty put together, a Petey. All right, so hey, I'm telling you, ratotrapology will change your life. So the trees Petey. I said it again. The peace treaty.
The peace treaty.
Petey. It's a Petey.
You need to write a song about this, Derek.
It's a Petey from here out. No, it don't matter. Even President Trump, I'm gonna tell him it's a Petey. Petey. You got to learn this word, Petey. All right. So Pistol Petey. That'd be a good one. So if you go read the one that he terminated in 2018, and if you go read that extensively, and there's 2 or 3 things you got to look up, ladies and gentlemen. The Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty. Then click on Nash Equilibrium and read what Nash Equilibrium is. And then read the Mutually Assured Destruction. Those 3 things. Write those down. Go look them up. You can find them on my pages, but go look those up. When President Trump terminated the treaty, all right, my new word, the Petey. When President Trump terminated that treaty, it actually invoked, if you will, it's not the right word, but we'll just use that because it kind of fits, the Nash Equilibrium and the Mutually Assured Destruction. It actually created nuclear peace because in MAD, Mutually Assured Destruction, MAD is the acronym, in MAD, when you have a Nash Equilibrium, well, then there's an agreement with the nations who have nuclear capabilities. Outside the peace portion, it says, okay, if one fires a nuclear weapon, then the other one has the right to fire back on that nation without any kind of, I mean, you hit me, I hit you. Well, an immediate strike. So, the person who, let's just say someone out there was willing to push a button like that. Well, the other one gets to push the button too. So the one who originally pushed it, they're going to be annihilated quick as well. So it wouldn't benefit them. So when Obama's talking like that, this is all portions for the people who don't know what's going on, the people who think Obama honed the moon and stars and everything else, right? That's to get them stewed, them engaged, and keep them engaged, keep them going, keep them over there, because of Obama being their savior, right? So it's to keep them engaged. But we know what President Trump said, all roads lead to Obama. Now, Obama may be the one that confesses. He's the very one that could bring all the liberals to their knees. It wouldn't be Hillary. It wouldn't be Bill. If Hillary came out and was like, Donald Trump is this, and he did this, and he's the dash, and he's that, and this, and this, that, liberals would say, you old washed up hag, da, da, da. But if Obama did something like that, it's a slightly different ballgame. All right, so if everybody look at the grander mission and goal of where we're going, even me, I, as much as I can't stand a libtard, in reality, if anyone out there can learn the application, the formula, the foundation, and everything for humanity, for our nation, for every state, etc., all the way down, work your way down, then they're supposed to. And that's how military, everyone in here that's a veteran knows this. We all know that. But this is where military does accelerate in that. It's because we do. In the military, we make your mama jokes. We make fat jokes. We make racist jokes. People know when you're being real. And so it breaks all this stress, and it breaks all this tension, and it breaks all this holier than thou. It joking with people actually creates camaraderie. It actually brings in the friendships. It actually brings in, and so, if people would get back to not being so uptight and tightwads, as the saying is, in the other kind of way, not just with money, if people would quit being so holier than thou, tightwads, uptight, judgmental, and this, if everybody just gets to just live your life, let's eliminate evil, Let's suppress evil. Let's terminate all this. Let's get rid of the trafficking. Let's do this. Let's do that. But learn the skills to that, and everybody get involved to a level. Then that's the portions is what makes the world go around. And there is a way to do that, but you got to do it daily. You can't rest up, right? So that's where America is going. That's where the golden age is headed, and everybody's going to benefit from it. But what we got to do is, this is another coined quote of mine, is that we're making sure the future's past doesn't look like the past. And in order to do that, every American that's capable has got to read, study, comprehend what's going on and maintain it. It's called prevention.
Amen to that. Sorry, I just you guys just heard me say I got to take the trash out. Um, amen to that, Derek, and thank you for that. Thank you for putting that all out there because there's so many people stuck on that whole everything you talked about, right? And the surface stuff. I always say it to my audience. People are just staying stuck on the surface. So I appreciate you bringing that and bringing everything that you do. So everybody, Derek's here with us every other Monday. 6:30 Central Standard Time. So Derek, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
And I'll finally be out of deer season, so I won't have any other thing else to do but deliver all this. So I'll be sad that deer season's over.
Well, we'll be sad not to hear your stories, but we'll always be glad to hear you with the stories here that you bring us. So with that, everybody, have a great rest of your evening. God bless you, Derek. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
We'll see everybody, and have fun learning the PD.
Thank you, Derek. Have a great night. Good night, everybody.